Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel, All Things Taylor, just in time for another wicked Q&A Wednesday. Before we get started, I wanted to briefly promote my wrestling shirts. I only like to do this when they're on sale, so from now until the end of, I think noon-ish on May 31st, they will officially be 20% off on prowrestlingtees.com/Taeler Hendrix. Sorry, I had something in my eye there. Yeah. Use code MEMORIAL. You'll get 20% off. You'll save some money, get some killer t-shirts. And if you end up purchasing a cameo from me and or a t-shirt, cameos at cameo.com/Taeler Hendrix and shirts from prowrestlingtees.com/Taeler Hendrix, you will actually be helping me donate to one of my father's favorite charities. I'm going to be splitting between the ASPCA and the Wounded Warriors Project now through Father's Day in honor of my dad. So I'm really excited, and you guys will be joining me for that. And so now let's get right down to Q&A Wednesday. We have mostly questions from my YouTube channel today and a couple from Twitter. Be sure to check out my Twitter, by the way. I have a really fun question going on right now about what your favorite movie is of all time. Okay. From my Twitter, someone asked me for a couple tips about training newer dogs. Two immediately came to mind. From my experiences and, from YouTube University with looking up all kinds of information, if you don't believe me, two things that I found to be invaluable no matter what kind of dog I was rescuing or working with. Number one, play with their paws and their ears. Play with them every single day. Get them used to having their paws and their ears played with. This is going to make it so much easier for you to clip their nails and for you to check their ears for whether it's fever, ear mites, dirt, cleanings. It'll be easier for you and your vet. Advice number two is get used to your dog being touched while they're eating. This will help you eliminate different types of behavior that deal with food aggression and or them prizing and prioritizing food in a pack mentality. That's a situation that causes a lot of bites and with other dogs, biting other dogs, biting other humans, especially kids, which ends up getting a dog either put to sleep, meaning euthanized, or they get sent to a shelter when it could have been avoided. So definitely play with your dog's ears and pet them and talk to them while they're eating, get them used to that, and kind of eliminate the possibility of food aggression or snapping when it comes to being protective over their food. Those to me are just huge, huge, huge. And a third thing is just, it seems like common sense, but to some people, they don't really think of it that way because they're just so in their own head with whatever they've got to do. Remember, you're your dog's entire world. Like, you are it for them. They just, you are their human. They're human, as I like to say on my dog Slinky's Instagram. Okay, so be consistent. Be consistent with what you do, because it takes a few days for a dog to start showing you their personality after they come home to your home. It takes a couple weeks for them to start getting acclimated to what your routine is, noticing repetition and signs. It takes several months for them to start to be fully comfortable. So you got to give your dog a chance. Give them a chance. A lot of dogs don't mature until around 2. So you will be so happy you stuck it out once your dog hits 2, because they will calm the F down. Puberty will be done. The mood swings, the craziness and whatnot. You just are left with an amazing dog who loves you and you are their world. So stick it out, look up videos, and just be consistent. Being consistent is so huge when training your dog to go potty outside, what not to chew, what time you'll be home, letting them know that you are coming back, you are not abandoning them. So consistency, play with their paws and their ears, and pet them and stuff immediately every single day while they're eating. Those are 3 immediate things that I would say work on today. Another one from Twitter. Someone asked me from Twitter, is there any movie that every time I watch it, no matter how many times I've seen it, makes me cry? Okay, y'all, buckle up. I am not much of a crier, but there are several movies that immediately came to my mind that no matter how many times I've seen them, I just bawl my eyes out, and I've probably seen each of them, 50 times. because I'm a repetitive watcher. I'll watch things over and over, or use it as background noise, whatever. So the boy in the striped pajamas gets me every single time. Every time, y'all. Every time. It is not fair. If you do not know what I'm talking about, rent that movie, download it, stream it, whatever you got to do, and you know, sorry for your box of tissues, because you'll need it. Another one that gets me every single time for personal reasons is What's Eating Gilbert Grape. I have seen that movie so many times. It's so close to home. I cry every single time. Another movie is P.S. I Love You. That one, like, get me a box of tissues. I don't know why. I just react very emotionally to that movie. And then the last one is Sophie's Choice. If you were a parent watching this and you have not seen Sophie's Choice, go and watch Sophie's Choice. You might hate me, but you'll understand why that makes me cry. That is probably a parent's worst nightmare, I would think. If I was a parent, I don't think I could make that choice. And I think that's giving quite a bit away. But yeah, so those are the movies. The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, P.S. I Love You, and Sophie's Choice. Okay, let's see. Someone from my YouTube channel asked me if I have been approached to do any voiceovers for animation. I haven't yet, but I am working on it, actually. Spoiler alert. I would love it because I am a very animated person. So I do voices and I laugh at all my own jokes all day long. I like doing Roz. I can do Roz's voice from Monsters, Inc. And I can do a tiny bit of SpongeBob. And I can do like an old man from New York. So I know, so random. So I would totally love to do voiceover for like Bob's Burgers, Archer, Family Guy. Let's see. F is for Family is going to be on their last season. But that would be really cool because the co-creator of that is a Boston native like myself, the Boston comedian Bill Burr. So yeah, there's so many opportunities. I would totally like love to be like a Disney villain in a Disney movie and, you know, all kinds of stuff. So totally would love to do that. Haven't officially done it yet, but would totally be so stoked for that. Another person on my YouTube channel asked me if I foresee Rebel turning on Britt Baker. I think most storylines in wrestling end up with one person or the other turning. So I would say it's more than likely. Who knows, maybe sooner than later. I don't know, but I like what they're doing right now, so I hope that they keep it for a while longer. Let's see. Someone asked me also from my YouTube channel if I prefer men's or women's wrestling. If any of you know me, you'll know I don't have a preference. I love wrestling. I just genuinely love wrestling. I don't care if it's men's wrestling, women's wrestling, tag team wrestling, lucha libre, battle royal, ringside rushes, gauntlet matches, fatal four-ways, Hell in a Cell. I don't care. I think the only matches I don't really care for are the dog collar matches. I just kind of sort of find those boring. But again, that doesn't really have to deal with men's wrestling, you know, or women's wrestling. It's just kind of a thing that I just don't really care for. I don't really like the dog collar matches as much. To me, because I'm a woman in wrestling, and obviously since I'm a woman in wrestling, I'm more acquainted with women's wrestling, but I actually trained with mostly men. So, to me, I have a huge respect for men's wrestling. Like I've trained with Tommaso Ciampa. I've wrestled Tommaso at my first OVW tryout. You know, so I have a lot of respect for a lot of men in the business. To me, I don't care if you're a man or a woman wrestling. All I care about is, are you safe to work with in the ring? Are you a good person on social media and in real life in the back? Are you putting on a good show for fans? Are you being a good human being, not just to people buying your merch, but also to the people you work with and don't work with? And are you putting on, like, are you telling a good story? Are you doing cool stuff, but also telling a story? Because there's a difference between telling a story versus doing cool stuff versus doing cool stuff and telling a story. I mean, I think ratings reflect that. And so that's what I care more about. I don't, you know, I'm not gender specific on that. Another person on my YouTube channel asked me if I had any second thoughts about wrestling while wrestling. I'm not retired. I get that question a lot. And so I think if any wrestler is going to be honest with y'all, we will tell you, if we're being honest, that yeah, of course we're humans. We're human beings who do like some pretty death-defying shizzit. So of course we've had second thoughts. You know, you know, sometimes it could be an injury that you sustain that makes you question your own mortality and therefore your own choice to be a pro wrestler. There's injuries that you've seen in person and or heard about that make you question. Sometimes it's the payday you receive. Like my first real payday, I was so stoked for it, was $5. Like that's a true story. And that's times that I, you know, and there was also times I never got paid. You know, the road trips, the bumps, the aches, the pains, the bruises, like it's a very rough business. So yeah, of course. And when you're going into an industry that's so taboo and against the norm and not what society deems successful, yeah, of course you have second thoughts. It's normal. But I don't think that makes you any less passionate about it. I think that just makes you a realist. And so yeah, I think if we're being honest, a lot of us have had those moments. But for me, that never stopped me. But yeah, there's been times where I was like, oh, should not have done that. That move was stupid, Taeler. Like, I'll never forget this move I thought was such a great idea, and it ended up being one of the worst concussions of my life. I got Northern Lights suplex from a grapevine position. What a grapevine, guys, is, if you do not know, it's something I use a lot in my wrestling because I have such long legs. I'm 5'7" of leg. My legs, with, you know, a black belt in mixed martial arts, so taekwondo, so like that's very lower body based. A grapevine is when you wrap your legs around an opponent's waist, and that kind of cinches you in, tightens them here, and also keeps them close in whatever hold that you have them in. So I had this person in a front chancery face lock, so their head's tucked in here, I'm cranking back like this, and I have my legs around their waist. Well, they end up muscling me over and turning it into a Northern Lights suplex. Well, it sounded great to both of us. And when I'm wrestling somebody, I'm not necessarily worried about getting myself over. I'm always like, ooh, how can I take something amazing that makes sense, that's going to make my opponent look that much more amazing and epic and awesome? Like, that's going to totally push the story over the edge. It's going to be great. Fans are going to be like, like, that's just my personality. I'm like, okay, what story are we going to tell? How are we going to do this? Let's make you look like a freaking badass, you know? And if I take it that good, then I'm going to look like a badass by default. Like, that's my personality. That's how I always approached, you know, my wrestling. It's a team effort, in my opinion. And I came up with this, so I have to take responsibility for it. And the person thought it was a great idea. Well, I ended up getting dumped right on top of my head. Like, this is the wrestling mat. This is my head. Northern Lights. Boom! Head. And then I get picked up because that's what was called. And I got into another Northern Lights suplex. I'm out of it. I don't remember the rest of the match. There's like 8.5 minutes of my life I can't get back. And I finished the whole match, guys. It's on YouTube somewhere. It happened in Southern California. And I remember Nigel McGuinness was there. He was on commentary. I hit my time cue because it was a tournament, and the matches were timed, and I had to hit a specific time cue. I did everything that I was supposed to. Have no memory of it. I was, you know, again, and the next day I had to fly to WWE for the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble where Roman Reigns won. I think it was in Philadelphia. So I was concussed out of my mind on that pay-per-view. And, you know, so then I'm at WWE, and what's happening? I'm having second thoughts because I'm like, oh, here's my, you know, my original dream job, and I'm concussed out of my mind. This is probably not the best possible scenario. I shouldn't even have been on a plane. You know, I haven't slept in 48 hours. So I have a concussion. Yay! Second guessing. Okay, someone asked me for my YouTube channel, and this is actually a question that's been coming up quite a bit on my social media. So the fact that it's now on my YouTube, I think you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. So someone asked me on my YouTube channel if I've ever thought for writing for WWE, and this has been coming up a lot recently, and I've been putting a lot of thought into it. And I think now that I am a published author with 3 books under my belt already, and the fact that I'm being talked about in Disrupt magazine and on Vicky Guerrero's podcast and with Yahoo Finance not once but twice, I think that gives me a credibility. And, you know, I'm working on my 4th, 5th, and 6th books right now. And plus all the wrestling experience that I have. I've been in wrestling for like 13? I think going on 14 years now. So, and now that I'm also writing for Fightful, I feel like I have this resume now that really speaks for itself. So I would definitely be like, hey, yo, WWE, you want some help? And that's not a knock on them. I think it would be a really interesting insight since I am a women's wrestler and I know a lot of the women that they have signed. I'm friends with some of them. So I'm very acquainted with people's different personalities, their strengths, their weaknesses. And plus, I think one of my strong points in wrestling was character development. I've gotten, really positive feedback from people like Vince Russo, Bruce Pritchard, Kevin Kelly, Les Thatcher, Eric Bischoff and stuff based off of character development stuff. So, I'm not saying no. Who knows? Let's see. Okay. Someone asked me if there was a dream match, for WWE that I would want to see. I'm not too sure. I do know that I want to see Riot Squad, meaning Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott. I want to see them win the titles on a major pay-per-view, but I want to see a big storyline leading up to it. I also want to see the rise of Naomi and Lana because I think that there's a really cool underdog story. I would also love to write the return of Becky Lynch. I would have so much fun with that. I also have some really cool ideas based around Sasha Banks. And I also have some really cool stuff that I would totally love to do with Mercedes Martinez. And I just have a lot of ideas for a lot of different things and a lot of different people for storylines. But I would have to say that I would love to see Rush and Andrade reunited as a tag team. And I'm torn for who I would want to see them go up against. Would I want to see them go up against Lio Rush and ACH? Or maybe a reuniting of Homicide and Eddie Kingston versus Rush and Andrade? Or I don't know. I would have to, this is a hard question for me because I watch so much wrestling. I would definitely have to sit down and think about this question some more. So let me come back to this question on a different Q&A Wednesday if you guys don't mind. Because I have some ideas, but I need to think about what would be considered dream match worthy though. Because that's a whole new level. Okay. Someone asked me, and this was kind of a deep question. They asked me this on my YouTube channel. Am I humble and appreciate? Okay, let me rephrase that. They basically asked, I am so humble with everything that I've done and do and accomplished. Am I that way because I know how things could have been, or could have turned out rather? The answer is no. I think that I personally, and I can only speak for myself here, I think I am humble because I understand the insanely hard fight, lifelong fight I had to go through and the journey in wrestling that I had to go through to be the woman that I am right now, talking to you all, opening up weekly and sharing interesting stories with you guys. I wasn't free to be myself for most of my career in wrestling. I grew up in the wrestling industry since I was 17, and that was a very toxic thing. So, 1 minute thinking that your life is going to end because of cancer, then finding out you're misdiagnosed, all of a sudden finding out that, you're level 2, level 3 pre-cancer, watching family members pass away, going through wrestling, trials and tribulations of that journey, the bumps, the injuries, the sacrifices. I had to fight to be the woman that I am today, and I'm really proud of that. I have such an insane amount of respect for that. And so for me, I try not to consider the what ifs and the what could have beens because I think those are just as toxic. If those things were meant to be, they would have happened for me and they didn't. So that means I'm meant for something else, and that's why I'm not necessarily jealous of other women and other men in the business and that's why you see me cheering on people that I cheer on, because to me, success is not a pie. More success for them doesn't mean less success for me. I work my butt off. So I know that there's great things coming my way. I'm just not necessarily in control of when they happen. There's so many existential circumstances. So for me, I can't focus on the what ifs and the what could have beens because that just brings a lot of negativity into your life and nobody deserves that kind of power over you. You don't. You matter so much more than that. And I remind myself of that all the time. Be free with your authenticity, Taeler. You matter. And you fought really hard to, wake up today and be the person that you are and have the life that you have. So you have to just approach things with a humble grateful respect for life. And that's kind of my personality and what I believe. And for me, you know, if I did have that DeLorean where I could hop in and travel back in time and change things to benefit me, I don't think I would want to do that, because I wouldn't be the person that I am today. There's no guarantee. And I fought really hard to be me. I like me. And I fought really hard to be able to say that I like who I am and to be free with my authenticity. That's why I always say all you need is love, guts, and gumption. Self-love to realize that you and your dreams matter. Guts to go after those dreams and to believe in yourself when no one else will. And then the gumption to see those dreams through without sacrificing your integrity and learning to cheer for yourself in the silence, letting your success be your noise. That is my philosophy in one quote. And I think that is how I manage to be humble with everything that I do and have done and accomplished. It's not because I know what they could have been. Oh, believe me, I know. But I'm not going to focus on that, because I'm focused on bigger, better, greater things. And the more successful I am, the more successfully I'll be able to give back. And that means the world to me, especially based on, you know, the ideals and how I grew up. I'm very appreciative, because I always remind myself of who I was when I was 3 years old. And that is how I stay humble. Remembering who I was at 3, who I was at 13, and how from then to now, how hard I fought to be the person I am today. And that has nothing to do with knowing how things could have been. You can always know how things could have been, but it doesn't mean they should have been. There's a very big difference. So I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Wicked Q&A Wednesday. Please join me on my social media tomorrow, as I am officially celebrating. Tomorrow marks 1 year since my first book was published with Amazon and BarnesandNobles.com. My first children's book, It's Not Easy Being a Sloth by Taeler Hendrix, turns 1 years old tomorrow. You know, in 1 year, I was able to publish 3 books. I am so incredibly grateful. I would love for you all to check it out on Amazon when you get a chance, and please leave a review. Let me know what you think. You can find it on Amazon, and I will put the link to all 3 books in the description for this video. Join me to celebrate 1 year. I will be talking all about it on Friday on Vince Russo's podcast. Until next time, everybody.